Alright, so this video series, we're going to be going over the 4 P's of marketing, or what's called the marketing mix. And we're also going to be touching on the 4 C's as well. But for this video, we're just going to be focusing on the first P, called product. And of course, this will include services as well. So if you don't know the difference, products are, actual things that we buy. So it could be food at the grocery store, it could be glasses, it could be phones, it could be cars. Those are all products. But a service is usually something you pay somebody else for, somebody else to do. So if you go to a restaurant to eat, you're paying for a service. You're paying for the cooks to cook your food. You're paying the wait staff to serve your food, prepare your food, all that stuff, right? So product will also include services. Anytime I say product, you could also substitute the word service in there. So again, here are our 4 P's of marketing. We got product, we got price, place, and promotion. And we're going to be focusing on product. And to start, we're going to be looking at some terrible product ideas. And they're kind of terrible in my opinion. And everyone I've shown this to also agreed with me. But I don't know, maybe you think some of these might be kind of cool. First, we have the BioVisor. And this was an invention near the start of COVID as an alternative to masks, I guess, where you're in this little pod and the air that's being fed into this pod is filtered and it's supposed to be safe. But who wants to be walking around with that thing? There's actually gloves on each side so you can actually reach inside and scratch your face and whatever. But no. This one's an interesting one. It's smokeless cigarettes, which actually sounds like a good idea, so maybe this doesn't really fit in terrible product ideas, but it was a very wildly unsuccessful product. And one of the main reasons why is when they asked smokers why they didn't like smokeless cigarettes, one of the main reasons was they didn't like the taste, which I just thought was very ironic. Cheetos chapstick. Yeah, you see that right. I don't know who thought of this. Who thinks that, wow, my lips are really chapped, I really wish they tasted like Cheetos right now? I have no idea. To be fair, I don't think Cheetos really thought this was gonna be a successful product. They probably just did it just for the novelty of it. But yeah, very terrible idea. And probably my favorite one on this list, Colgate kitchen entrees. You know, those dishes that you put in the oven or in the microwave and cook them? Yeah. Colgate beef lasagna was one of them. This is a good time to talk about branding really quickly here, which we've already talked about in a previous module. Branding is all about the personality, what people think of when they see your product or your company, right? So when you think of Colgate or you see their logo, what do you think of? Obviously, you think of toothpaste, right? So could you imagine walking down the grocery store aisle and you're looking for some nice beef lasagna, and then you see a Colgate beef lasagna. That does not sound appetizing, because again, your mind will automatically go to toothpaste. Yeah, those kitchen entrees did not last long. Okay, but let's talk about product and its related C, which was consumer. Right, so we got product and is related to consumer, right? Because it's the consumer that's buying the product, right? So the P is one of the components of marketing, right? The 4 P's is kind of like the what of marketing. What is marketing? Product is one part of that. Whereas consumer, it's more about the strategy, the how. How do we make good products, right? Well, in this case, we have to keep the consumer in mind. That's the how to make a good product. Okay, so some of the things we're going to talk about relating to product are features and benefits of products, the design of products, and the quality of products. And then when we start talking about consumer, right, when we're starting to focus on either of these 3 things, features, benefits, designs, quality, we also have to keep all the consumer stuff in mind. So the needs and the wants of our consumer. What do our consumers need and what do they want? Right? If we go back to the BioVisor, this is a good example between needs and wants. During COVID, we need some sort of personal protective equipment, right? PPE. But do people want this? No. So it satisfies a need, but it definitely does not satisfy a want. Okay? So there's a good example between needs and wants there. Okay, so consumer again. What do they want and need? Why do they want and need it? And how can we satisfy that want and need? So when we start talking about all this other product stuff, we keep these 3 questions in mind. What do they want and need? Why and how? Okay, so let's talk about those features and benefits. What are they? Well, features are essentially the specific traits or attributes of a product. So as you can see on the left there, let me just get these on screen here. Specifications, uses, materials. On the left, we have a picture of a phone, right? What are the features of a phone? Well, it's got a touch screen, right? Got a touch screen. We have GPS inside of our phones. We have the ability to access the internet, so we have Wi-Fi or data usage on our phones. We have a camera on our phones, and we have speakers on our phones, right? So those are the different things that a phone has. Those are the different features. You could also look at specifications, right? So how fast is our phone? What is the processing speed of our phone? The different uses. So uses is a type of feature. So again, like I said, access the internet, right? GPS, so we can use navigation apps like Google Maps, right? Cameras can take pictures. So those are all features. That's really important when we start comparing that to benefits, right? And then materials as well. What is our products actually made out of? Those are all features, okay? But is the product just a sum of its features? Is a phone just something that has a camera and speakers and all of its other various parts, or is there something more to it? Well, that's when we start to get into benefits. And the benefits is essentially the value in a product that comes from that product solving a problem or satisfying one of those wants, right? Tying it back to the consumer. What do they want? What do they need? Well, if our product has features that meet those wants and needs, that becomes a benefit. So usually a feature will have to have at least one benefit, or else why have it in your phone at all, right? We refer to this as the so what factor. And what that essentially means is, okay, your phone has a however many megapixel camera. So what? Well, you can take pictures and create memories. You can keep memories and share those memories with people. That's the so what factor, and that's what the benefit of having a camera does, right? You can take pictures. Okay, so what? What's the benefit of taking pictures? What's the benefit of having a camera? You can share those memories on social media. You can keep them. You can print off those memories for, to hang up on your wall or something like that. Okay? So it's essentially reasons why the customer should buy your product. Let's look through the rest of these. Okay? The benefit for having for a screen in general, you can watch videos on your phone, right? So that's a benefit. You can watch YouTube videos, you can learn from those YouTube videos. All those things can be benefits. What about for GPS? Well, you can figure out where you are or where you want to go. If you want to go to a restaurant and you don't know how to get there, you just plug it in, and that's the so what factor. That's the reason why you should buy this product. Internet, so what? I can I can access the internet, so what? Well, you can maybe Google stuff, you can research stuff, you can learn stuff on the internet. That's a benefit. I already talked about the camera. You can share that on Instagram or whatever you want to do. And what's the benefit of being able to listen to music? Happiness. You want to be able to listen to music. That can be a benefit all on its own. It's something you want. It's something that makes you happy. Okay? Let's go back to the Cheetos chapsticks. What's the benefit of Cheetos chapstick? I mean, if it works, yeah, you get your lips unchapped, but there's not a lot of benefits to this chapstick, especially over some higher quality ones. And I guess unless you really love the taste of Cheetos, but yeah. All right, let's talk about design. Because whenever we make products, we have to design them with our consumer in mind, with whoever we want actually using that product. Okay? So let me just put all of these up here. These are the different steps of the product design process. First, you have to understand the context. Who are we trying to sell to? Who's going to be using our product, right? Then you have to define what your product is going to be. In general, very high level here, right? So context, maybe you're a skateboarding brand and you want to make your own skateboard, okay? So you're trying to figure out what kind of skateboard are we going to do, right? Are we going to do like a actual skateboard, or are we going to do a longboard, or are we going to do a penny board? Which one, right? And then that's where you kind of get into, okay, who are we trying to sell to? Are we trying to sell to the skateboarders that go to skate parks? Or are we trying to sell the longboarders? Like who, right? And then once you know that context, you can start to define what your board is going to be. And then you get to the ideate process, where you start to generate ideas and actually start brainstorming some stuff. Okay, what's the design of our board going to look like? What's the material we're going to use? How big are the wheels going to be? The trunks, all that stuff, right? And then you get to the prototyping phase, which you're basically making up your different boards to see which one's best, iron out any of the kinks, you test it out, and then you actually go ahead and make it, and then you actually share that product, or you actually try to sell it, right? So on the side here, when we get into ideation, right, you have to try and decide, okay, what are our options? What kind of options can we have for our product? It might not work with our skateboard example, right? But let's go back to phones, because that's a very easy example. What options do you have with a phone? What color it is, maybe the size of it, the storage space in that phone, 64 gigs, 128, 256, right? What are the different options that we're going to offer? Is it going to be customizable, right? Can we change things? Can the consumer, when they buy it, change something about that product or not? And is it upgradable? Can they buy it and then somehow upgrade that product later on, right? All of these are different product design considerations. And of course, is it going to be environmentally friendly? Okay. One of the last things I'm going to talk about with product is something called the product life cycle. Okay. This is generally something that most products are going to do. And we see a graph here that shows the product life cycle, and you see two different axes here, right? So as we go across the x-axis on the bottom, that's time. So as we go this way, that's time moving forward. And then on the left, we have sales. So as you go up, that means more sales. So right at the start here is right when we first invent our product and we're trying to sell it. Okay, this is called the introduction phase. When your product is first introduced to the market, not a lot of time has passed and you're not going to get a lot of sales right away, right? It takes some time for people to get your product going, get it out there. And then that's when we start to get into the growth phase. It's going to take a little bit more time to get there, but your sales, this is the biggest growth of sales. You can see it goes very high, very fast. It's not the highest point, but it's the highest change in that period of time. Then we get to the maturity phase. This is when most people that are going to buy your product have already bought in your product, right? So it'll peak out. This is your max amount of sales you're going to get out of your product. And, your sales start to slow down, and then it starts to go into the decline phase where people stop buying it as much, right? So maybe we look at a car, for example. Let's just say Honda Civic, right? The 2022 Honda Civic comes out. It's right here. On that first opening day, yeah, you're going to get some sales. It's an established brand, so it's going to start to go up. But then really, as the year goes on, the sales are going to grow, up until near the end of the year or maybe into the next year, where it's going to start to decline because people who are going to be looking for a car are probably going to want to go for that next one, the 2023, right? But of course, the product lifestyle doesn't always look like this. Especially when we have very reputable brands and very sought after products. For example, Apple and their iPhones. As soon as a new iPhone comes out, there's no intro phase. It goes straight into growth. It's like almost like everybody's buying it right away. And it hits that maturity pretty quickly, but then it still takes a while to decline afterwards, right? So not everything's gonna look exactly like this, but it'll have this sort of shape. The last thing I'm gonna talk about is just what are some opportunities out there? If you want to get into marketing, what are some specific product career opportunities that are out there? Well, you have something called user experience, where you're trying to you work with what the user is actually going to be doing. And you see this term a lot, user experience, with anything online or digital. So TikTok has a user experience department probably. And they're in charge of figuring out what's the layout of TikTok going to be, how do the reels work, all of that stuff. Okay. You get into research and development. So this is like the invention part of product design. So there's a huge, research and development team with Tesla trying to create the next models of Tesla cars so that they're the best and the newest and the most innovative, right? The designers who's actually modeling, the graphic design, who's doing all that stuff with products, prototyping, who's building and testing these prototypes and recording all that stuff so they can make the product better. All of these have to do with product and marketing. And like I said, we have testing and something called quality assurance.